You're listening to the WrestleHavoc podcast on YouTube, where we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. We talk all that goes on in the realm of WWE and AEW every week. And now, here's your host, the one that will give you a reality check on pro wrestling, Flamin' Ricky DeReyes. This is the WrestleHavoc podcast.
Long time no see. What's up, everybody? It is Flamin' Ricky DeReyes right here on episode 25 of the WrestleHavoc podcast, of course, in which we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content, and as the frickin' referee would say, ring that damn bell for more notifications. We got a lot of things to talk about right here on episode 25. Of course, originally the thumbnail of this video was going to be me talking about Jey Uso and why he will not go to AEW, because that is really dumb speculation amongst wrestling fans after the segment that we saw this past Friday on SmackDown. But a lot of news came out regarding, of course, one Mr. Best in the World, one Mr. Second City Saint. That, of course, I'm talking about Mr. Collision himself, CM Punk. And everywhere CM Punk goes when it comes to the dirt sheets, it's just a lot of drama left and right, and a lot of reports, a lot of BS, a lot of drama has just absolutely exploded all over social media to the point where Twitter has become an absolute freaking war zone. It's been insane just to see all these fans, these idiotic fans, literally fighting over the stupidest shit possible. Yeah, I know, it's absolutely crazy. But we're going to be talking about the whole CM Punk situation and much more. We're going to be briefly recapping this past week in wrestling. Of course, I haven't been uploading a video since Monday night of last week, which was the Raw review. That is why, because of the fact that right now I'm actually in Portugal right now. Yes, I am not in my normal setting. That's why there's no video and you don't see myself in the screen right now. But I am not at home right now, and I'm going to be here till next week. And I don't know if I'm going to be uploading full in-depth reviews because I'm literally on the road just 24/7. Like, we are literally in a car like all day. So that's why I didn't give you guys reviews, and it was really tough, especially with the shows happening, since Portugal is in Europe, 8 o'clock Eastern time is 1 a.m. over here. So it's a little tough for me to schedule all this stuff going on, but I wanted to come out with you guys with episode 25 of the podcast because a lot of news came out regarding CM Punk, man. It's just been an absolute cesspool all over social media. It's been laughable. Some of the reports, I believe, are pure bullshit. But we're going to be talking about much more information besides CM Punk. We're going to be talking about AEW All In. Of course, All In is going to be taking place, at Wembley Stadium, I believe, next week. We're already getting closer and closer and closer to All In, so we're going to be running down the card. We're going to be talking about Roman Reigns' potential injury that he apparently suffered at SummerSlam, but it wasn't as big of a deal as a lot of people made it out to be. We're going to be talking about Nigel McGuinness. He could be headed back to the wrestling ring as well. Bryan Danielson, of course, Bryan Danielson right now is currently on the injured list after the match that he had with Kazuchika Okada a couple of months ago at Forbidden Door. He was originally slated to face Kenny Omega at Wembley Stadium for All In, which was crazy to think because I've really wanted to see that match, but unfortunately we're not going to be getting it. We're going to be talking about the planned location for this year's AEW Full Gear pay-per-view and much more right here on episode 25 of the WrestleHavoc podcast. But before I get on with all this craziness regarding pro wrestling, make sure to like and subscribe to the WrestleHavoc podcast right here on YouTube, in which we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content, and as the friggin' referee would say, ring that damn bell for more notifications. So let's dive deep right into the news. Of course, as I stated earlier, I'm right now in Portugal, and I don't know how my uploading schedule is going to be. I don't think I'm going to be uploading full in-depth reviews this week or next week. So I just want to point that out there right now, but I want to come to you guys with this review or this podcast so I can really get you guys in the know of what is going on in professional wrestling. We're going to be kicking off episode 25 with CM Punk. Yes, the big story. I'm going to be kicking off this show. We're going to be talking about Collision briefly. Overall, Collision happened this past Saturday. I thought it was a pretty good show overall. Of course, we had that amazing opening segment with Ricky Starks. Of course, Ricky Starks in kayfabe has been suspended for 30 days, but Ricky Starks has a manager's license. But it was a very, very, very passionate promo with one Ricky Starks, man. There's one thing I can say about Collision, and really there's a lot of positive that you can say about Collision, but the one positive that you can say about Collision is that it has elevated a lot, and I mean a lot of wrestlers, one of them being Ricky Starks, the other ones being, of course, Switchblade Jay White, just to name the few. But it was a phenomenal opening promo with Ricky Starks. We had the Acclaimed in action. Of course, they're fighting, to really keep the spirit alive of Billy Gunn, who apparently retired. We do not know if that's really true or not, but we're going to have to wait and see in the future. We had other stuff happen on the show. We had Willow Nightingale and Chris Statlander taking on Mercedes Martinez and Diamante, which was actually not that bad of a match. We also had Samoa Joe taking on Andrew Everett, whatever you want to call him. It was a jobber, basically, but really the true story was him being pissed off that he had no answer from CM Punk. And what happened was actually in the main event, which we saw CMFTR wrestle the House of Black for the AEW World Trios titles. CMFTR lost. One of the reasons is because of the fact that Samoa Joe choked out CM Punk in the crowd. We also had Christian Cage. Hilarious stuff by Christian Cage. Luchasaurus went on to wrestle Brock Anderson, which of course Luchasaurus ended up squashing him at the end of the day, but that was that. And we had Powerhouse Hobbs in a segment. He basically challenged Miro to a match. And then, of course, we had CMFTR versus the House of Black, which you guys already know, ended with Samoa Joe choking out CM Punk. And from what it looks like, we are going to be getting CM Punk versus Samoa Joe at Wembley Stadium at All In, which I'm absolutely excited about, man. I talked about this a couple of weeks ago on the Collision Review when I covered CM Punk versus Samoa Joe when they went at it in, I believe it was in the semifinals of the Owen Hart Cup tournament. But if you think about it, one of the feuds that I've always wanted to see CM Punk in ever since he joined AEW, and we didn't know that Samoa Joe was going to be going into AEW until he made his return to Ring of Honor at Supercard of Honor last year. But as soon as Samoa Joe made his return to Ring of Honor at Supercard of Honor last year, I was like, bro, we need a CM Punk feud, because we got CM Punk, now we got Samoa Joe, and now we're finally going to be getting it in AEW's biggest show of the year. So that was Collision, but unfortunately, even though Collision was a very, very, very good show, was it like the best show? No, but I enjoyed Collision for what it was, man. Collision has been phenomenal ever since it launched. But unfortunately, people were not talking about the actual show itself. If anything, they talked about the post-match promo that CM Punk cut after the show went off the air on TNT. And this is crazy. So he basically went after Hangman Page. Now, it wasn't really by choice. It wasn't like CM Punk was going to just immediately shoot and talk shit on Hangman Page after the show was over. That wasn't actually really the case. Because if you think about it, what happened was there was somebody in the crowd, and this was blatantly showed. This was shown blatantly. If you watched Collision, there was a guy holding a sign that says Carolina is Hangman country. And I don't want to say that ticked off CM Punk, because CM Punk did not sound pissed off, if you think about it. CM Punk was not pissed off. He was kind of jokingly screwing around and just talking shit on Hangman Page. But he wasn't legitimately pissed. But, of course, as the internet is and how the internet wrestling community is, they tend to blow shit out of proportion because they're dumb. What happened, and this is the full quote by CM Punk, he stated, and I quote, "Earlier today, I went to a local supermarket and I figured out what they had called him Hangman, or why they had called him Hangman. It's because the pegs in the toy aisle are full of Hangman action figures because no one wants to buy them. He's a peg warmer unlike me who moves merchandise and pops rating and sells toys. Everyone in AEW says, quote unquote, I'm the heart and I'm the soul and I'm the spirit. Well, that's objective. What's a fact is those people that say certainly aren't the chin of AEW, Punk said before admittedly botching a reference to the GTS to complete the line. I'm reading this from F4W Online's website, ironically. But that was really the quote by CM Punk. What's funny about that is even though it sounded very harsh, it did sound very harsh on Punk's end, Punk is not lying. Let's be honest with ourselves. Punk is the biggest draw that AEW has. or at least at this point, one of the biggest draws that AEW has. I believe the biggest draw right now for AEW in terms of viewership is Adam Cole and MJF, the duo between both of Adam Cole and MJF. Those guys are moving ticket sales, and those guys are moving ratings and merchandise. Same thing as CM Punk. And if you compare CM Punk to Hangman Page, unfortunately, and I know a lot of the Punk haters are going to say this and be pissed off from what I'm going to say, CM Punk is the top draw of AEW. Deal with it. Okay? CM Punk brings a level of legitimacy whenever he enters any wrestling organization. I'm sorry. Yes, I know he's the center of controversy. Trust me. He is. Everywhere he has gone, he's burned bridges. He's burned bridges with the WWE. Heck, he fucking went to the UFC and got demolished not once, but twice. And then went back to professional wrestling. You thought he was happy, but then all of a sudden the whole brawl-out incident happened. CM Punk is the top draw. And I remember initially when this whole video leaked on Twitter, immediately after Collision went off the air, because I did watch the full video on Twitter, and the link will be in the description if you guys haven't checked out that video. I didn't really think much of it. I didn't think much of it at all. I didn't think it was a scenario of Punk just being super angry and just going off like he usually does. But everything that Punk said was just in response of a poster he said. Now, could he have ignored it? Yeah, he could have. But, I mean, CM Punk is CM Punk. And he's going to do what he wants to do at the end of the day because he is the top draw. And say what you want, that may be a good thing, but at the same time, that may be a bad thing. But that is not the full story. Now, one thing I will say about that whole scenario is, look, Punk didn't need to do what he did, calling out Hangman Page, but some people were saying this was part of a work. I'm going to go out on a limb and say, yes, this is part of a work, and I do think eventually down the line, CM Punk will feud with the Elite. I think it's pretty much set in stone. I mean, the Elite signed new contracts with AEW. One of my biggest concerns in 2023 was the whole CM Punk and Elite drama. Could CM Punk be the catalyst of the Elite leaving AEW for maybe WWE? But thankfully that didn't happen. But could this lead towards a Hangman CM Punk match or a feud with CM Punk and the Elite? A lot of people are still holding hope that could still happen at All In or All Out. I'm going to go out on a limb and say those matches are not happening at All In or All Out. They can happen at any time. Okay, and I even made a suggestion, if they're going to go forward with a feud like that they should kick that feud off. Instead of doing a match, they should kick off the feud at All Out, because it marks 1 year to the day, I believe, or in a couple of days, that the Brawl-Out incident happened. 1 year ago, CM Punk went in the press conference, and, you guys know the story. But who knows? But then the next day happened, and a shit ton of reports just came out about CM Punk, about Ryan Nemeth, Matt Hardy, Christopher Daniels, you name it, about guys being banned from Collision. Jesus Christ, they're taking this brand split seriously. Like, the unannounced brand split between AEW or Dynamite and Collision, that shit's like Bloods and Crips, bro. Like, they don't want to go anywhere near each other. We all know Punk is the head of Collision, but Jesus Christ, they are really taking this shit way seriously, which is insane. Hey, WWE, you should take fucking notes. But we had a lot of crazy stories come out about Ryan Nemeth. Remember last year at Brawl Out, when Brawl Out happened, this whole thing stemmed based off of Colt Cabana, of all people, a guy that served nothing of importance, in my opinion, in AEW with the current product. Same thing with Ryan Nemeth. Let's be real here. He serves nothing of importance regarding this whole situation. But apparently, Ryan Nemeth was sent home from Collision. And this was a major story that kind of just riled up. So according to Fightful Select, Ryan Nemeth was sent home from AEW Collision, and he previously had words with CM Punk. By Fightful, Wrestling Observer reported today that Hangman Page was set to do a pre-taped interview for AEW Dynamite. However, when he went there, he was told that they would have to do it away from the venue and not go to the show. I wonder why. We have not been able to confirm that Hangman aspect of it. However, we were able to confirm that Ryan Nemeth, who I believe is the brother of Dolph Ziggler, was brought into town for the Collision tapings. Shortly after arriving, he was told by a coach that he wouldn't be needed and a flight had been booked for him to return home. Nemeth is a regular on the Being the Elite YouTube series and was confronted, check this out, was confronted by CM Punk shortly after CM Punk's return this year. Specifically, Punk took exception to Nemeth's quote-unquote literally the softest man alive tweet that followed Punk's return promo. We haven't heard about how things went outside of Nemeth explaining himself, and that it didn't end in anything physical. In regards to Hangman Page and CM Punk, we were flat out told that the promo after Collision was not a work or planned thing that Page was involved in, which honestly, at this point, you could easily think of that, but I don't think it's as serious as a lot of people are making it out to be. Now, when it comes to the whole Ryan Nemeth situation, you know, this whole I don't want to say civil war that's going on in real life in AEW is real, but let's be realistic here. There's a civil war going on in AEW in real life. This shit is getting out of hand, man. You got people in Collision not going to Dynamite and just delegated in Collision because they don't like the Elite, and vice versa. Ryan Nemeth is a regular on being the Elite. He was told to go to these tapings, and then he was told to leave. Now, could that have been CM Punk ordering people to just leave the building and not being a part of Collision? After all, Punk is the top guy, and he is the face of Collision. But I don't think it's a scenario of CM Punk barking orders at people. A lot of people on the internet are making this whole scenario as, you know, CM Punk, oh my God, he's in control of this company, and he's in control of all this shit going on, and he has Tony Khan by the balls. He may as well have Tony Khan by the balls, honestly. That aspect I actually believe. I do believe CM Punk has Tony Khan by the balls. Because let's be honest with ourselves. Even though we all love Tony Khan doesn't know how to step in and take action immediately when it comes to these situations. Look at what happened at Brawl Out or All Out last year. He sat next to CM Punk while Punk was eating, what was it, a chocolate chip muffin from Mindy's Bakery in Chicago, acting so unprofessional and just really spewing a lot of just bullshit that the dirt sheets were speculating on the internet, and a whole fight broke out after the press conference was over. So, I mean, Punk was saying all this shit, and Tony was just sitting right next to him, doing absolutely nothing, looking like a whole little kid. You know, Tony Khan, even though he's great at what he does, and I'm a big fan of Tony Khan, without Tony Khan, this company wouldn't exist. I do believe sometimes Tony Khan tends to put his fandom first and, you know, order second. And as a promoter, you can't do that. I understand the job of a promoter is very difficult because I've never been a promoter, so I don't know what it's like, but I would assume it's a very difficult responsibility. But you need to take control of your roster. This whole drama, because think about this. During the time of Brawl Out, during like August, September, October, November, like right or roughly around those 4 months, almost every week, there was drama left and right in AEW. A fight breaking out with Andrade and Sammy Guevara because Andrade, you know, said something in a freaking interview, and Sammy was just going ballistic on Twitter. Eddie Kingston and Sammy Guevara literally going into a fight. I believe it was one of the men pie-faced the other guy, and Eddie Kingston got secretly suspended. The whole Britt Baker and Thunder Rosa situation. I mean, bro, don't even get me started with all the shit going on right now in the women's division in AEW. The LuFisto interview dropped. I didn't talk about that, and I won't talk about that. Maybe in another time. But the LuFisto interview really says a lot about the culture in the AEW women's division. There's a lot of issues going on in AEW during that period of time. Now, has things changed? We do not know. But it's very weird, man. Very, very, very weird, man. Every time something good happens in AEW, and this is just a harsh reality, and I don't give a shit what anybody says. I don't care if any of the AEW diehards just get angry at me. You know, I'm not an AEW fanboy. I'm a wrestling fanboy at the end of the day. Okay? I hate to use the word tribalism because, again, I think everybody uses that word and they overuse that word. Trust me, it is a very real thing. Tribalism in wrestling is real. But I'm not going to use that word for the sake of using that word because I guarantee you, a year and a half ago, nobody in the wrestling community was using the word tribalism. Okay? So cut the bullshit. Stop with the fake outrage, please. But, again, every time, you know, AEW does something good, drama follows it, and it literally just takes over the good. And that is an unfortunate bad thing. And unfortunately, this is a very similar situation. Now, we, when it comes to this whole situation, we got an update. I don't want to say an update, but PW Torch. This is going to get fucking sketchy because PW Torch, Wade Keller, look, I don't want to talk crap on Wade Keller, but some of the stuff that he reports is beyond, to me at least, pure bullshit. I mean, look, Wade Keller has been in the game just as long as Dave Meltzer. And look, Dave Meltzer even should stop talking about CM Punk, in my opinion, because everything that Dave Meltzer says clearly is the opposite of what other dirt sheets like Fightful are saying. That's just my opinion, at least. And I have a great, big respect for Dave Meltzer, but when it comes to talking about CM Punk, Jesus Christ, it's just a shit show. I hate to say the term Uncle Dave, but I'm going to say it, Uncle Dave. But Wade Keller, man, what's funny about Wade Keller is that every time when a big story like this comes out, primarily regarding CM Punk, like we wouldn't see, an exclusive by Wade Keller, like in like months. All of a sudden he pops up out of nowhere with an exclusive talking about this whole drama. And some of the shit that I read was flat out dumb, in my opinion. Very, very, very dumb. Now, could this be true? We have no idea. At the end of the day, they are dirt sheets. That's the first word in the term. Dirt. They love to spew dirt. So apparently at the Dynamite where CM Punk returned unannounced and basically attacked or helped FTR against Bullet Club Gold, PW Torch sources indicated that Punk confronted Nemeth in the locker room. The story conveyed to PW Torch is that Punk incurred Nemeth in the locker room, got inches from his face and angrily and aggressively and asked if they had a problem or if they needed to settle things outside. Punk is the type of guy that keeps receipts, I'll tell you that right now. Punk cited to Nemeth that his comments on Twitter inflamed existing tensions and that the optics of the tweet sent a bad message. This incident was witnessed by numerous wrestlers and was characterized as awkward and weird. Nemeth moved the argument to the hallway where Punk continued to berate him according to our sources. Nemeth defended his judgment, calling Punk soft since Punk fired the first shots at the Bucks. Punk pushed back that his timing was bad and worked against the public image they were going for, that everyone was either on the same page or at least not inflaming prior issues. Nemeth then asked Punk if he shouldn't react to things Punk says on television, and Punk said that there'd be the right choice at the right time, that'd be the right choice at the right time, and then they shook hands, but apparently the tension was still high as they went their separate ways. So Fightful is reporting that nothing physical went down, and all of a sudden, PW Torch is all of a sudden going in depth with how things went. I'm going to ask you this right now. Has any of these people reporting this type of stuff, yeah, they get information from, a couple of the wrestlers in the locker room. I do believe somebody in this locker room is spreading stupid-ass information that leads to all this drama. I'm going to just say it as it is. Somebody in that locker room. I know a lot of people are pointing the finger at Chris Jericho, but why the fuck would Chris Jericho ruin his reputation like that? I don't think it's a guy like Chris Jericho. But somebody is spewing all of this information. Somebody. I don't know who it is. But whoever is spewing that fucking information should really stop. Because it's embarrassing at this point. But the fact that PW Torch, of all people, who will only get you an exclusive like literally once every few times a situation similar to this would happen, all of a sudden goes in depth of the situation and says, oh yeah, Punk got aggressively in Ryan Nemeth's face and a lot of shit went down. Like, what? Who reports stuff like that? Seriously, who reports stuff like that? That's so dumb. But who knows? That may be true, that may be not true. But like, again, it's just stupidity at its finest. And the reaction, the reaction by the fans on social media, like, bro, the fans are divided. The fans are divided. The wrestlers are divided. What the hell is going on? Seriously, what the hell is going on? We had stories of Christopher Daniels not being at the Collision tapings because he had a part to do with the brawl out situation. I don't view that as that big of a deal. We have no idea, but it's just very weird, man. Very, very, very weird to see how this whole situation is just brewing and brewing and brewing. And I don't like to quote people, but Raj Giri pointed out a particular tweet on Twitter, and normally I tend to disagree with a lot of the takes of Raj Giri, but he is, I would assume, a smart guy. And he brought up something on Twitter that was actually very smart. Let me actually pull up the tweet right here. Let me actually pull it up because this was actually, honestly, if you think about it, a lot of these tweets make a lot of sense. Some people do not, but Raj Giri pointed out something very, very, very telling. And basically, I'm trying to pull it up right here, but it's not showing up. Whatever. He basically stated a tweet that, you know, I'm afraid. He was saying that like he's afraid that this situation is going to escalate even further. And honestly, it couldn't be farther from the truth. You know, what happens if this situation continues to just get worse and worse and worse and worse? That is something you just do not want. But I don't know, man. I don't really see this whole situation as a bad deal, but at the end of the day, when it comes to stories like this, fans tend to get way ahead of what is going on, and I think it's very, 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 very stupid. And I think Tony Khan needs to take action, and I believe there needs to be situations dealt with, because this is just so fucking stupid. This is all coming. And notice how ever since Collision started, and all the reports you heard was, oh yeah, the environment is way calmer than Dynamite. All of a sudden, this shit, you know, comes out at the worst possible time, when AEW is on the verge of, you know, doing and producing their biggest show ever. Come on now, this is fucking stupid again. Can we just move on from the CM Punk and Elite drama? This is like Bloods and Crips. Can we just stop? Seriously, this is ridiculous. It's really dumb and embarrassing at this point. Tony Khan should really step up. That's just my opinion. Moving on, after all the CM Punk debacles that was going on, which honestly wasn't that bad, but it is what it is. We got more stories happening right here on the WrestleHavoc podcast. We're going to be talking about an ROH legend could be heading back to the wrestling ring. Nigel McGuinness could be headed back to the ring. Sources have confirmed to Fightful Select that the former Ring of Honor World Champion has been taking measures to try to return to the ring. We've not been told definitely that McGuinness has been cleared to return. For that, he'd been taking measures that indicated that he was considering a return to the ring. The 47-year-old McGuinness last wrestled well over a decade ago, with his last match being on December of 2011. His last televised match was way back in September of 2010 on a TNA Explosion match against Stevie Richards, whatever you want to call him. We can confirm that McGuinness was brought up in recent months as a possible competitor on the AEW All-In card. However, we can't confirm if there are plans in order for him to wrestle, if it has been broached internally by All Elite Wrestling. I don't know, man. I mean, with the age of Nigel McGuinness, I mean, he hasn't wrestled in like well over 10 years because of a serious health issue. Who knows? Maybe he could get cleared, but we're going to have to wait and see. I know a lot of people were pointing at the fact that on commentary this past Saturday on Collision, Nigel McGuinness was taking a few digs at Bryan Danielson, and Nigel McGuinness has history with Bryan Danielson from the Ring of Honor days. Who knows? Maybe they could tease a potential match with Bryan Danielson and Nigel McGuinness, but we're going to have to wait and see. If anything, I think AEW, if they want to take, or if Nigel McGuinness wants to go out of retirement, I think he should take it a little bit slow. I don't think they should rush it. But if they're going to have him, you know, go out of retirement, honestly, it's not a bad thing. I think Nigel McGuinness is a great addition to AEW in any capacity at the end of the day. All right. And our next story, we're going to be talking about injuries that changed the AEW All-In card. Yes, AEW All-In is going to be taking place August 27th from Wembley Stadium in London. And according to Fightful, Bryan Danielson broke his arm when Kazuchika Okada hit him with a flying elbow drop at Forbidden Door, but a huge rematch was at least considered at AEW All-In with another talent. Sources confirmed that Kenny Omega versus Bryan Danielson was at least considered for the show before the injury, and even for a little bit after the injury, as the company hoped he'd be ready for a return. However, AEW sources claimed that were also other plans for Kenny Omega, but didn't hear what those were. It was reiterating to Fightful that Omega and Danielson was considered, but not planned. Wrestling Observer reported that Kenny Omega, Hangman Page, Kota Ibushi versus Konosuke Takeshita and Bullet Club Gold is now the working plan. I will say this right now. I think Hangman Page, Kenny Omega, and Kota Ibushi taking on Konosuke Takeshita and Bullet Club Gold is a great match for All In, if that is what they're going to be doing. Because I believe the plan is to have the one-on-one match between Kenny Omega and Konosuke Takeshita happen at All Out the week later. But I will say this, even though I like the idea of the Elite Wrestling Bullet Club Gold, I do think it's a little bit too early for that. Because think about this, we're literally almost a week away before All In at Wembley Stadium. Don't you think if you wanted to do an Elite versus Bullet Club Gold feud that you'd have a little bit more build for that particular match. Don't get me wrong, it's going to be a great match if they're going to book it for Wembley. And this past Saturday on Collision, we did have Switchblade Jay White and the Guns mention the Elite. I believe the Guns challenged the Young Bucks to a match on Dynamite, I believe. But again, don't you think there should be a little bit more build, considering there is a big history regarding Kenny Omega and Jay White? Because Kenny Omega was a former leader of the Bullet Club. Jay White was a former leader of the Bullet Club, and now he runs his own Bullet Club faction here in AEW. There's a lot of story to be told in there. And I think, announcing that match right before All In, I think it's wrong. I think you really should have more and more and more built for that. And I think it's a little bit too early to tell that story. That's just my opinion. I think the match is going to be great. I'm not complaining about the match itself. I think the match itself is going to be phenomenal. But again, I think there should be more built for that match. But it's very smart. Now, in terms of Bryan Danielson versus Kenny Omega, a lot of people are talking about what Kenny Omega is going to be doing at All In. We still do not know. Apparently that match is rumored he's going to be in a trios match, which honestly, he should be in a singles match. But we're going to have to wait and see what AEW does. But again, I mean, a match with Bryan Danielson at All In would have fit perfectly for a show like All In, because if there's any big match that you can book Kenny Omega in for a show at Wembley Stadium, it's definitely Bryan Danielson versus Kenny Omega. But unfortunately, that's not going to happen because of the injury that Bryan Danielson suffered at the hands of Kazuchika Okada at Forbidden Door. AEW Full Gear. They got a planned location and date. According to Fightful Select, Full Gear is headed to Los Angeles. Fightful Select had confirmed that the traditional November pay-per-view event for All Elite Wrestling is headed to the West Coast. Sources with knowledge of the situation stated that AEW Full Gear is currently slated at the Kia Forum in Los Angeles, California on Saturday, November 18th on internal calendars. This would cause an adjustment to Collision, but we aren't sure how yet. We've heard that fairly recently the pay-per-view was actually discussed for that Sunday, and there were some surprise people in relation to it being on the calendar for November 19th, as the Jacksonville Jaguars have a home game against the Tennessee Titans that same day. In the past, AEW has avoided scheduling pay-per-view events on Sundays, with Tony Khan noting that as an NFL owner, he didn't want to compete against himself. In addition to Full Gear at the Forum, we've heard that Dynamite days prior will be in Ontario, California, and this can all change, but as of right now, this is the working plan. I think Full Gear being in Los Angeles is not a bad idea. I mean, AEW, holy shit! Like the beginning of this year, they were all over the West Coast, man. They went to the Kia Forum. They were in California, all over the place. They were in San Francisco this past March for Revolution, which ended up being a phenomenal pay-per-view. We had that 60-minute Iron Man match with MJF and Bryan Danielson. It was a great show. But again, Full Gear at the Kia Forum, it's not a bad idea. I was at Full Gear last year because Full Gear was at the Prudential Center in Newark, New Jersey. I was there. It was a great show, and I wouldn't be surprised if Full Gear delivered a phenomenal show as well, because every time on pay-per-view, AEW, most of the time, hits a home run. Shifting gears towards World Wrestling Entertainment. Roman Reigns got hurt at SummerSlam, but don't hold your horses. I don't know why people are celebrating. It's not that big of a deal, as the internet is stating. Roman Reigns did get hurt at WWE SummerSlam. According to Fightful Select, Tuesday morning, Wrestling Observer reported that Roman Reigns got hurt earlier in the match with Jey Uso at the show. Fightful Select has since confirmed the news. However, he is still planned for WWE SmackDown this Friday, in which he was at with that phenomenal segment with Jey Uso, Jimmy Uso, and everybody else, with the confrontation of Jey Uso and Jimmy Uso, which was phenomenal, which I'll be talking about that later on this show. After SummerSlam, word came out that Roman Reigns was not advertised for any WWE TV episodes over the next few months. However, we did confirm that Reigns was planned for this Friday's SmackDown, and as of right now, there aren't plans for him to miss his internally scheduled appearances. That could always change. WWE hasn't responded to our official inquiries, that being Fightful, regarding Reigns, but we've heard the same that Observer that, did anything. We heard the same that Observer did about it happening earlier on. There weren't those who were likely in the know about the creative capacity for SmackDown who hadn't heard about the injury until word emerged on Tuesday. We're told that as of Tuesday afternoon, it hadn't changed creative. So, if you think about it, this is not really that big of a deal. Roman Reigns, of course, the top guy in the WWE. He's the top guy in the entire industry right now. He's on a run of a lifetime right now, and he's not losing those titles anytime soon, until at least by next year's WrestleMania in Philadelphia. But Roman Reigns, it's a minor injury. The reaction on social media was hilarious. You deadass had fans that were happy that this was going on, not really realizing that it was a minor injury. But I hate to break it to you, Roman Reigns is not going to lose those titles anytime soon, at least until WrestleMania next year. So please, fans on the internet, hold your fucking horses. All right, in our next story, we're going to be talking about, Bray Wyatt. Bray Wyatt is in the news. At long last, there's some good Bray Wyatt news. Now, Bray Wyatt hasn't been on WWE television since, I believe, the Royal Rumble, which was the Pitch Black match, the Mountain Dew Pitch Black match with Mr. L.A. Knight, which, of course, L.A. Knight right now is one of the hottest acts in World Wrestling Entertainment. Fightful has learned that Bray Wyatt is finally getting closer to clearance after the amount of 6 months without it. Wyatt has battled an illness that we won't disclose, and the company and Wyatt have been talking about extra precautions to make sure that his long-term health is accounted for. But there is some positive news. Of late, we've confirmed that Wyatt isn't actively cleared, but those we've spoken to have been, those that we've spoken to claim that he's getting closer and that they have been presented some creative ideas. One source indicated that some ideas were even mentioned in September. However, that won't mean, if anything, he won't get that clearance. Wyatt, he's coming back. We do not know in what capacity. I will say this. When he did return last year at Extreme Rules, it was a big deal. Everybody, the White Rabbit stuff, the build up to the QR codes, everything, the build up to his return was phenomenal. But then we had the same promos every week with Bray Wyatt, and we had the Pitch Black match, which, looking back at it, was a dog shit match. I thought of it differently when I saw the match, and then looking back at that match, it was pretty much a failure. But we know why he was out for all this period of time. It was due towards a legitimate health issue, and we wish all the best for Bray Wyatt, and hopefully he can return safe and sound and do what he does best, and that is top-tier storytelling in professional wrestling. All right. We're going to be in our last story. We're going to be discussing SmackDown. SmackDown this past Friday, of course, was the fallout from SummerSlam, which had, a lot of people in wrestling in the community just confused after the ending that we saw at SummerSlam with Jimmy Uso causing Jey Uso the undisputed title, which was hilarious to me because I knew that was going to happen. I don't know why people are believing that Jey Uso or Jimmy Uso turning on his own brother was not going to happen. It was clearly going to happen, and it was blatant with you watching the match. But we had this segment, the fallout after SummerSlam, this past Friday on Fox, and I thought it was a pretty good segment. Now, I didn't watch the show in full. Really, the main important thing that I saw was the closing segment with Jimmy Uso and Jey Uso and Roman Reigns and the entire Bloodline. I always said it, and I'll say it again, every Bloodline segment, tops itself. It always does. But this was very interesting. So we had Roman Reigns come out, and we had Jimmy Uso coming out from the crowd, and basically Roman was like, "Hey, you want anything you want? Do you want any material items? Do you want a car? Do you want a yacht? You want anything?" And then Jimmy Uso was like, I don't want anything from you, and what I did at SummerSlam had nothing to do with you." And then you had Jey Uso come out. Jey Uso, of course, the hothead that he is pissed off, and he asks Jimmy Uso why he did what he did. And Jimmy Uso did the explanation of, "I didn't do it because of jealousy. I did it because I love you, and I did it because I did not want to lose you. Because if you had won the undisputed title, you would have also been the tribal chief, and you would have ended up like him, a self-centered, narcissistic, egotistical asshole like Roman Reigns." And what happens is Jimmy Uso was like, "Hey, if you want to hit me, take your free shot." And then all of a sudden, Jey Uso turns around, and then Jimmy Uso just leaves the ring. Roman Reigns is laughing, saying that, just screaming at Jey Uso, saying, "Bro, we've been telling you this for 3 years, and you still don't get it. Acknowledge me." And then, the whole brawl broke loose with Jey Uso super kicking Roman Reigns, taking out Solo Sikoa. Meanwhile, you had Jimmy Uso walking on the ramp, And what happened was Jey Uso took out both Solo and Roman Reigns, and he grabbed the mic and he called in Jimmy Uso, who was still on the stage. And what happened was that you had Jimmy Uso saying, "You want to go back? Wait, what?" He looked happy. But then, of course, Jay was walking towards Jimmy and vice versa. And what happened was Jimmy Uso, or Jey Uso, super kicks his own brother, Jimmy, and he got his receipt for what his own brother did at SummerSlam. And then all of a sudden, you had Jey Uso go towards the camera, and he says, "I'm done with the Bloodline," or "I'm out of the Bloodline, I'm out of SmackDown, and I'm out of WWE." And then he walked towards the crowd, and he left, and the SmackDown show ended. This caused a lot of discussion on the internet, man. A lot of discussion on the internet. And to be honest with you, some of the stuff that I heard on the internet was one of the dumbest things that I've ever heard in my freaking life. Jesus Christ, the amount of people that created their own all-elite graphics for Jey Uso is the funniest shit that I've ever seen. Meanwhile, after that, WWE moved Jey Uso's likeness from the roster page to the alumni section. And usually when WWE does that, that means when a wrestler is moved to the alumni section, that means, if you think about it, they're no longer with the company. That happened with Jey Uso. And last night on the Raw show, you had Wade Barrett on commentary blatantly say that Jey Uso was moved to the alumni section. Usually, if a wrestler legitimately gets released and they're moved to the alumni section, none of that shit gets mentioned on television. But, of course, WWE mentions it on television. And, of course, we're not going to be seeing Jey Uso for a long period of time. A lot of people were speculating, including myself, that we were going to see Jey Uso versus Jimmy Uso at Payback, I believe in Pittsburgh, in early September. Looks like that's not going to be the case. Apparently, that match is going to be happening at WrestleMania next year. And they're not going to have Jey Uso just, be on the shows for a short while. He's going to have a hiatus. How is that going to play out? We do not know. Are they going to sting him? By that, I mean, they're not going to have him wrestle for like half a year and then all of a sudden wrestle his own brother. We do not know. It's very interesting, though. I had no problem with the segment whatsoever. I thought the segment was pretty good. Could the explanation have been a little bit better? Yes, but it was a great segment. I thought the emotional, aspect of it with Jimmy Uso saying all the stuff that he said was really good. Do I think Jey Uso or Jimmy Uso, Jesus Christ, I always get them confused. Do I think Jimmy Uso is kind of bullshitting here? Yeah, I do. It's wrestling, of course. The heel always bullshits the babyface. But we'll see where this goes. But Jey Uso is not going anywhere. If you honestly believe WWE is that stupid with Jey Uso legitimately leaving the company, bro, they throw all the money in the world at him just to keep him. Jey Uso right now is at the highest point of his career. He has been with the WWE, at least on the main roster, since 2010. He's finally getting his break right now, and he's on the verge of becoming one of the top guys in the company. Is he going to be on the level of a Roman Reigns? No. But he's going to be a top guy. But this whole storyline, which is clearly, blatantly a storyline, Jey Uso is not legitimately leaving WWE. I don't know where people got all this information from. I do not know where people get this stuff from, but clearly they're stupid. Jey Uso is not going anywhere. He's not going to show up at Wembley Stadium. This is all a work. This is all a work. I know that term gets thrown around a lot, but this is all a work. Jey Uso is staying. It's for a bigger story and a bigger angle that they're going to be doing most likely during WrestleMania season. We're going to wait and see how this plays out, but yeah, it is what it is. But those are my thoughts on that. But yeah, that was episode 25 of the WrestleHavoc podcast. We definitely talked about a lot of things right here on the show. Once again, of course, I am at a different location. I'm not in my normal location. I am in, of course, Portugal right now, and I'm going to be there. I'm going to be away all the way till next week, so you're not going to be seeing a lot of content from me, but I hopefully will be splitting all these clips that you just heard from the podcast as separate uploads, and you guys can see it that way as well. But nonetheless, we talked about a lot of things, and hopefully I can come back and talk about a lot of other things going on in pro wrestling. But yeah, that was episode 25 of the WrestleHavoc podcast. Please like, subscribe, comment down below, push that bell for notifications. I mean, look out for more videos right here on the WrestleHavoc podcast, in which we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content. And as the freaking referee would say, ring that damn bell for more notifications. And as always, it is Flamin' Ricky DeRays, signing out. I'll see you guys later. Peace.